Hello, welcome back or welcome to my channel. I am reading Evie, and today I'm going to talk about the book I just finished a little bit ago. Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. Let's get into it. So, Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet. Lydia is the favorite child of Marilyn and James Lee, a girl who inherited her mother's bright blue eyes and her father's jet black hair. Her parents are determined that Lydia will fulfill the dreams they were unable to pursue. In Marilyn's case, that her daughter become a doctor rather than a homemaker. In James' case, that Lydia be popular at school. A girl with a busy social life and the center of every party. But Lydia is under pressures that have nothing to do with growing up in 1970s small town Ohio. Her father is an American born of first-generation Chinese immigrants, and his ethnicity and hers make them conspicuous in any setting. When Lydia's body is found in the local lake, James is consumed by guilt and sets out on a reckless path that may destroy his marriage. Marilyn, devastated and vengeful, is determined to make someone accountable, no matter what the cost. Lydia's older brother, Nathan, is convinced that local bad boy Jack is somehow involved. But as the youngest in the family, Hannah, who observes far more than anyone realizes, and who may be the only one who knows what really happened. So I think the plot is a bit misleading, just in the sense that Hannah didn't really know everything that happened, but I don't know where they got that from. So starting off, sad with the first sentence, Lydia is dead but nobody knows, which was the first line of the plot too. She's only in 10th grade, so that does make it a tad tragic. It says place in the 70s, and while looking for her daughter, Marilyn remembered a classmate of hers disappearing and turning up dead, but the very outdated statement is she was buying cigarettes for her parents. So just, obviously that is sad, but it was, I don't remember what age they said they were. I just thought it was funny. It's just a tad outdated now. Hannah, Lydia's younger sister, thinks she saw Lydia outside in the dark. I said, is she or is she not dead? Or is it just wishful thinking from a little girl? She is, I think, about 9, so. They keep talking about Marilyn going missing sometime before. I wonder if she tried running away. We'll see. Marilyn was going to school to be a doctor, and it talks about all the sexism she's experienced. I don't know how we handled it as well as we do. I guess some don't. Marilyn is talking about when she met her husband, and he's her professor. Hopefully they didn't start dating until after she wasn't his student. So that wasn't the case. They kind of started flirtation, and then I can't remember if they had sex or not. But she did eventually drop his class, and then that's when they officially started dating. Other than that, gross. Even if it was the 70s. Or, well, at that point, 50s. James, Marilyn's husband, said she didn't stand out at first, but he'd never tell her that. It sounded like me and my husband when we met. Neither of us stood out to each other. I'm wondering why we care about the parents' childhood or college days. It kept going back and forth between the past and the present, and that was kind of annoying. So it would be the past, way back, when James, Lydia's dad, was a young boy. And then it'd go to Marilyn for her college years. Now, based on the plot, how they want her to be popular, well, he wants her to be popular and she wants her to have ambitions, I can see why we're getting into that view, but it was just kind of annoying. The racism in this book is also sad. It talked of a white man marrying a black woman, and then they got arrested for it. So much sexism and racism in this book. Lydia was left with only half a face. The rest was eaten in the lake. So that was terrible to learn. James saw her body, and he also read the autopsy report. So as of now, nobody knows what happens to Lydia, why she was in the lake. seeing as she couldn't swim. So, and I don't think they ever really learn. It's just... Okay, I did have a note on that later, so I'll wait. Nate, Lydia's brother, thinks Jack did something to her, but I don't know if he would have. He sounded like a crappy kid, but doesn't mean he's a murderer. And it was only because they kept talking about how he would sleep with a lot of girls and then never talk to them again, basically. Or at least it was rumored. So, I mean, but obviously that doesn't make somebody a murderer. So, James is cheating on Marilyn, and just shortly after their daughter died, literally the day of her funeral, he went to his TA and slept with her. As if they're not going through enough right now. I did not like James. He was a piece of shit. Now, I obviously feel sorry for him. He lost a child. But that doesn't excuse cheating. Dang, before Hannah was born, Marilyn did plan on running away. So, yeah, they kept talking, like I said earlier, how she went missing 9 years prior, I think it was. And so, yeah, she ran away from her family, 2 kids, Lydia and Nathan at that time, and her husband, James. And only left, I think, a little note. It really, I can't remember what it said. But, yeah, so she ran away from home and went back to college for a little bit. And I said, it's sad that the kids know Lydia was the favorite child. You know, when Marilyn came back, it was all she focused on was Lydia, 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 and never Nate or their third child, Hannah, who came along after she came back. James just hit Nate for talking about space, and something he just recently learned. I feel for James, but he seems shitty, like I said earlier. And then frankly, so does Marilyn for leaving her kids in the past. And I said it just makes me glad that we have choices now in the 2020s. Where had she not want to be a housewife nowadays, she wouldn't really have to be. So it's kind of a shame that she didn't really get that choice back then as much as we do now. This is all of why I'm all about choices. I had wondered if Hannah was why Marilyn came back, and I was right. She learned she was pregnant, but decided not to follow her dreams because she was pregnant. It must be the time, I think, because I think if she wanted to finish, she could have, if money wasn't the object. Maybe that was just a thing of the 50s and the 60s. Or, yeah, 60s, I think, at this point. 60s, 70s. So I don't know. It must just be the timing. I understand why Marilyn focused so much on Lydia, but definitely is still wrong. Poor Nate. Nate had to go through a lot of crap on this book, too. It's pretty sad that Nate was decided to leave his family when thinking of going to college. So it's understandable that he'd be excited to go to college. I was excited, but I wasn't excited to leave my family. That was, like, the worst part of going to college. So it's kind of sad that he had such bad parents that he just wanted to get away from them. It's a shame that the parents could forget to celebrate their child getting to Harvard because of another kid getting a C in a class. Which, based on my previous words, is clear that Lydia was the child that got the C, and Nate was the one going to Harvard. Stupid. Lydia was pretending to have friends and faking phone calls. So they did have a phone that was... they said, like, upstairs, like, in a corner, basically. I think it was, like, maybe you go up the stairs and there was, like, a little, I don't know, thing. But the phone was there. So they had that phone, and then they had the downstairs house phone, as most families, did back then. So she didn't have a private phone in her room. Obviously, no cell phones yet. So they kept talking about how she was popular and how she had a lot of friends, and they even listed those friends' names when the cops came and interviewed them after Lydia was found. It turns, because James was saying that, well, she's on the phone just about every night talking to people. Turns out she was faking it. She didn't start out faking it, but it just seemed like nobody really wanted to hang out with her, so she just kept on. James is now yelling at Nate because he's upset at himself after sleeping with his TA yet again. Toxic. James kept pissing me off, and so did Marilyn in this book. And I mean, it was just more the way they treated Nate and Hannah, just like they didn't exist. And that was before Lydia passed, I should say. And the cops ruled her death as a suicide. So at this point, we still don't know what happened to her. If somebody killed her, if she really did kill herself. Will we find out? Let's see. Marilyn found out about the affair. I can't remember how she found out. If it was by James or not James, Nate or what. But she did find out, so I was expecting stuff to be thrown out. But that's not what happened. Well, apparently I didn't write down what happened. Okay. Well, I think they stayed together, basically. Both James and Marilyn project their issues onto Lydia. Marilyn not wanting to be a housewife, James not being the same as everyone else, which it basically does say that in the plot that I'm just now remembering. It's just still super annoying to read. And a lot of parents do that. It's very frustrating. I said I understand that I don't know what it's like to be of a different race, but it does sound like he's using this as an excuse to cheat. So I wish I wrote down what it said, because they did get into an argument. So Marilyn goes, I think maybe to a hotel room or wherever the heck they were staying. And she's asking whatever her face is, the TA, where James is. And James is clearly in the room, but you can't see him, but she knows that he's there. So it's kind of basically a confrontation, but not really. So he goes home after she leaves, and they get into an argument, and he's basically just bringing up that because she's white and he's Japanese, I think it said, or American-born Japanese. So I wish I wrote down exactly what he said. Now I can't remember, but he basically was using it as an excuse to cheat. Stupid. Lydia slapped Hannah because she took her necklace. Violent family. Yeah, so James gave Lydia a necklace for her birthday. I don't remember which one. I think maybe the more recent one. And she didn't like it because it basically, I guess, represented popularity or some crap. I don't remember. And Lydia didn't want that for Hannah. And so Hannah had a habit of stealing stuff from Lydia's room. Typical little sister stuff, I'm sure. So she stole the necklace that Lydia had packed away and was just wearing it. And Lydia then just slapped her and was like, no, take it off. Don't ever wear this again. I'm like, can these people just not communicate? I know it's the 70s, but dear God. So Jack, the boy I mentioned earlier, who supposedly went around sleeping with his classmates and never speaking to them again, he is gay. So all that was a rumor. And interested in Nate. So that's sad. I always feel bad for people who are in love with somebody they can't get. Sad, Lydia was finally gonna stand up to her parents, so we finally figure out what happens to her. It's in her view. And as I mentioned earlier, she can't swim. So she finally just has a revelation, and her big moment is she was going to stand up to her parents, tell them no more, tell her mom, basically, fuck off. So, and then she was at the lake, and she wanted to swim to the boat or whatever that was there, basically just to prove that she can, to prove that she's not reliant on anybody else. And that's how she died. She couldn't swim. So that was all my notes. It wasn't a whole lot. So honestly, I wouldn't recommend the book. It was kind of boring. And it was sad, obviously. It's about a dead girl, a young girl. So I would probably give it like, honestly, a 2 or 3. I don't really rate books a whole lot. Usually if I finish it and I like it, I usually just give it a 5-star on Goodreads. But for you and I would probably do like a 3 or a 2. It's really not worth reading, honestly. It's just a lot of anger. Well, it's what you would expect there to be, but it's also just the presentation of the book, going back and forth, and not just necessarily before Lydia was alive, but before she was even born. And she's the oldest. Is she the oldest? No, Nate's the oldest. Well, even before so-and-so was born. So yeah, that was my thoughts. I wouldn't read it again, and I wouldn't recommend it. But if you did read it, let me know what you think. Maybe you liked it a little better than I did. And if you did, tell me why. And if you hated it, tell me why. Bye.